Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kyra, and today I am bringing to you my personal top 5 eyeshadow formulas. I found this concept on MandyLea's channel here on YouTube. She is one of my favorite YouTubers, and she was doing this idea in collaboration with MrsMelissaM and Heather Austin, also here on YouTube. So I will have all of their videos linked down below in case you want to see more content like this. But today we're just going to talk about my 5 favorite eyeshadow formulas from my collection, and just why I like them so much, what's special about them, and so on. But before we get into that, if you're new here, a very special welcome to you. I hope you will consider subscribing before you leave if you like what you see today. It makes it easier to find my videos Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday when I upload, and allegedly, if you ring that notification bell to all, YouTube will let you know when that happens. Get started. Number 1 for me is 100% Natasha Denona. I love that she has so many different textures of eyeshadow within her collections, and it just makes it really fun to play with the different textures, to experiment, learn how I like to apply them best, and things like that. It's just a really fun experience, if you will. And besides that, they're just so good, from her mattes to her cream to powders, chroma crystal toppers, metallics, the whole shebang. They are all fantastic. Now, I have ordered the new Glam palette from Natasha Denona, but it's not coming till tomorrow, so it won't be in this video today. But let's go ahead and go in order of size. In terms of her mini palettes here, I have the mini star palette, I have the mini retro palette, and then I have the mini glam palette. The mini glam palette does have one of her special cream to powder formulas in here, and these are almost like an eyeshadow base, but not quite a cream shadow, if that makes sense. They do kind of set down to a powdery finish. It's very silky and smooth. The rest of the palette, you have one of her, what she calls creamy mattes, and then the other 3 are metallic shadows. In her mini retro palette, you get to experience the chroma crystal topper formula. These are generally pretty sheer, especially when applied to the lid, but they have such beautiful sparkle without being chunky or anything like that. I don't tend to experience fallout from these, but they can benefit from being wetted with your brush. And this particular one I just love because of all the different colors that are in here. I love what the chroma crystal formula does when applied over other shadows. Otherwise, in this palette, you have 2 creamy mattes as well as 2 metallic. And then in the mini star palette, which is the one I've had the longest and probably one of my favorite palettes overall, you get 2 creamy mattes, a metallic, a duochrome, and a chroma crystal. This chroma crystal is probably one of the most opaque that I've seen in her palettes. It's a beautiful olivey green. Oh, that's gonna be so pretty for fall. And then this duochrome is a very like classic blue brown sort of pigment, but I feel like this one has a little bit of more red than brown base, which I happen to really love. My first midi-size palette was this one, and this is the Love palette. Unfortunately, in these midi-size palettes, there's no marking on these packages that tells us what the formulas are inside of here. You either have to look it up on the website or you have to keep the packaging. But beyond that, I can tell you that these 2, this deep purple and then this beautiful true royal purple, are both the cream to powder formula. One thing that I love about the darker cream to powder formulas is that they work really beautiful as eyeliners, and it's a little bit more trustworthy than just using a powder eyeshadow for a liner. You got a couple of duochromes in here, you got some toppers and some really beautiful mattes in this one. And then going into the bronze palette really quickly here, you have a couple of duochromes down here. This shade Silk is so silky, but it's like liquid metal. I mean, as you can see, it just goes on so smooth. I'm not for sure what formula that is. I can put it up on the screen here, but you do also have a creamy matte in here, and I love that it's included in this one. It's really nice for deepening up out the outer corner, but it's also like a really interesting deep purpley blue color that works beautifully with all of these warm tones as a liner. This is the gold palette, and you definitely have representation of all of the different formulas in here. You have duochrome. This is your cream to powder. I love using that as a liner, whether with this palette or not. You have some of her beautiful, beautiful metallics. This one right here called Varus is one of my favorite bronzy brown shadows in my collection, and I used it in a Get Ready With Me recently, which I can link for you. The only one I don't love in this palette is this one up here, which I believe, yeah, this one up here is one of her chroma crystals. I just don't feel like it's on par with a lot of her other ones. It's just, you can barely see it because it's more glitter than anything. And then last but not least, this was my very first Natasha Denona palette. Maybe I got the Mini Star first, but this is one of my favorites. Beautiful duochromes in here. I love the mattes. And this is just a really fun color story. The next brand is hopefully a brand that you've come to expect me to rave about here on my channel, because it is one of my all-time favorites. Probably my top 3 eyeshadow formulas ever, and that is the Persona Cosmetics formula. Wow, I am having a brain day. There's so much that I love about this formula overall, and I do find the formula to be very consistent between the two palettes, so if one speaks to you more than the other, I will say with confidence that you would enjoy either because of this phenomenal formula. But my beloved, this is the Persona Identity 1, or just the Persona Identity palette. Another thing that I love about these is that a lot of times I find that when I find a shimmer formula that I really enjoy in a palette, I don't necessarily think the mattes are as outstanding. These mattes in both palettes are every bit as outstanding as the shimmers, and that's really saying a lot. I love the shimmers in here, but the mattes just perform absolutely beautifully. These are some of my favorite shades from this palette. And another thing that is so great about this formula is it actually disguises texture, in my opinion. I've said that about Lorac before, and unfortunately Lorac did not make the cut because Persona in my mind is better than Lorac, but they're just beautiful. They're so impeccably blendable, so easy to use, and just absolutely phenomenal. I love this collection of shades in here. And then you have her a little bit more fun baby sister, which is the Identity 2 palette, and I absolutely love this. More than I love this palette by itself, I love these palettes paired together. I tend to pair them together if I'm going to use this one more than I would use this one standing alone. This blue is 100% one of my favorite blues in my collection to wear. It's like denim blue, but it's so flattering on the eyes. And I think that's what's interesting about this, you know, somewhat colorful palette, is that all of the colors that they have done in here are very wearable once you get them on the eyes. Some may think I am definitely not wearing that raspberry shade right there, but it is so pretty. It's just muted enough and it's just deep enough that it makes it very, very wearable. And like I said, these palettes pair beautifully together, so you could take this raspberry shade and pair it with the taupe that I swatched from the first one, or with the cream colored shimmer from the first palette, and tone it back a little bit. And that's why I love pairing these palettes so much, because I get the beautiful formula that is from the first palette, but with a little bit more color and adding a little bit more interest to the looks that I might create with the first one. Next is definitely one of my favorite brands of eyeshadow, and I think not only for the formula, which is what we're talking about today, but because of the variety. But these are for sure some of my favorite palettes in my collection, and they are from Colourpop. The oldest one in my collection is Dream Street, and I really wish that they would bring this one back. So many people, I feel like, didn't appreciate it in her time, and now it's too late because you can't get it anymore. But this one is absolutely stunning. Some of the textures in here are just outstanding. This brown in here is definitely my favorite dark brown in my entire collection. It has just a tinge of plum to it, in my opinion, and it just makes for such a beautiful outer corner shade, a liner, whatever you want. But it is definitely one of my favorite deep browns in my collection, and I love this palette. I wish it was still available. Next is the Double Entendre, which is still available, and I always have fond feelings of this palette now when I look at it, because this is the one that my hubby picked out when he chose my makeup, which I can link for you guys if you want a good laugh. But these are just such beautiful warm neutrals. The shimmers are just beautiful, metallic, look like liquid metal, and I just like that it's not all brown. You got some like buttercream yellow, and you got this brick shade and some peachier tones, and I just really like this palette a lot. Another palette that I feel like really didn't get much appreciation, and I think it might have been an Ulta exclusive, is the URA QT palette. This was the Valentine's Day release this year, and I will admit this is not my #1 favorite from the line, but I still do really like it. That being said though, I think the thing that a lot of people didn't expect from this is that some of these tones that don't look so pink are still pink. This was the first palette that I bought that has the Super Shock formula in here, and then you have this really cool duochrome, which definitely attracted me to the palette. It's like a purple base with a blue shift, and I do like this palette. I think it is really fun. I like that it had so many different textures in there. I don't believe this one's available anymore, so I won't go on about it too much, but I really liked this one, even though other people didn't seem to. Definitely a favorite from my Colourpop collection is the good old boring Going Coconuts palette. I don't think it's boring, but probably a lot of people do. I love the shimmers in here, especially this one in the center is so just smooth and metallic. Again, it looks like liquid metal. That's like my perfect lid shade for life. But I also like that you can go in a few different directions with this palette. Besides just brown, you have this more rosy tone over here, and you have a little bit of cool to neutral tone down here. I would say this whole palette kind of airs around the neutral, but it's really beautiful. I really like it. Only this shade up top though, this white shade, is definitely not my favorite formula. I don't even know what it's supposed to be, but it's kind of chunky and lots of fallout. It's not a good shadow, but you know, you win some, you lose some, and the rest of the palette is phenomenal. Then I have these two from the tie-dye collection. I had to have them. I'm a tie-dye kind of girl living here in Colorado. But these barely had their day in the sun. And I will say that I hate the pressed glitters in here. Not a hater. I don't generally say that I hate things, but I genuinely hate the pressed glitters in these. This one is really fun. Why am I so blown out? This green shade down here, again, is one of the Super Shock formulas, and that is super fun, so I enjoy that. I really like that they have just like a good old white shadow in here, and I like that this isn't like solid green. You've got some orange over here and things like that. So I haven't used this one a whole ton yet, and specifically not on my channel, but that's because they kind of came and went, and honestly I just bought them for myself anyways, so it's all good. And then in this one we have another Super Shock shadow up here. I love this little pinky number right here. Hate the chunky pressed glitter in there. But I do love the colors in here. This Super Shock shadow is like a duochrome, blue, purple, pinky, white, all that good stuff. And then last but not least for Colourpop, I have the Blush Crush. And I just realized that this video is getting very long already, so I'm not going to swatch anything from here. But again, I have another one of those beautiful Super Shocks, and this shade is definitely a duochrome. Moving on. The next formula is Anastasia Beverly Hills, and specifically the 14 pan palette formula. I do have Soft Glam. I still have my Subculture palette. I'm excited to pull that out for fall. I have the OG Norvina palette, the classic Modern Renaissance palette. The one I have on my eyes today is the Carly Bible palette, which definitely did not get enough love. And then we do have Miss Jackie Aina, which just this one to open. Can't wait to use this for fall. Fall in a palette right here. Love. And I have Sultry, which I'm excited to compare this to the Natasha Denona Glam palette. I definitely get some similar vibes, and I want to do some comparison swatches. And then last but not least is a single cream eyeshadow formula, and it is the Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize. This is in the shade Marie Antoinette, but I would have all of the shades if I could. This is such an interesting, like, moussey texture. I don't know if yeah, you'll be able to see. It kind of like, when you stick your finger in there, it pulls up like stiff peaks almost. So this is what it looks like though. Oh, look at that. I love it. This is more of like a concentrated swatch, and then this one's a little more blended out. But I love this specifically for a one shadow look. It's beautifully metallic, but it blends. You have a good amount of time because it's that soft moussey formula. You have a good amount of time to work with it, and so I just apply it all over the lid and like kind of let it touch the crease, and then I'll take a little blending brush and blend it up into the crease and transition area, and that's it. Like, that is the look. I'm leaving this out for my move because this is my go-to one shadow look. It practically matches everything because it's like taupe, but erring on the warm side of taupe, even though taupe is mostly cool tone. You feel me? Do you feel me? And once it does set down, it's beautifully smooth. It is budge proof, and like I said, I would have all of these if I could. So there you go. Hopefully once I get this edited down, this won't be an eon long, but I just really enjoy talking about my favorite eyeshadow formulas. Thank you to MandyLea, MrsMelissaM, and Heather Austin for this fabulous idea. Again, their videos will be linked down below if you want to hear about more awesome eyeshadow formulas. And with all of that said, thank you so much for spending part of your day with me here today. I always appreciate that. And if you did like today's video, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. It helps me out tons here on the platform. And I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful makeup days, and I will see you in my next video soon.